Hey basketball players, today I'm going to give you my 10 biggest tips on how you can be a successful basketball player. Now, being a success as a basketball player can be different for everybody. You may not think that you could be a success unless you make it to the NBA, to a pro league somewhere in the world, or maybe just to play high school basketball. It's totally different for everybody. My definition for a success is that it's something that you were able to do and make money from later on in life so that you can live your dream. So for example, myself, even though I'm not a player, I'm still living as a success in my mind because I'm able to run this basketball YouTube channel full time. And I'm able to train players full time. So remember that success is going to change all the way through. And to your parents, success in basketball is not just being a good player, but also being a good student. So you also have to think of it that way as well. But number one is to work on your game 7 days a week. And I don't mean go work out, lift weights 7 days a week. That's not going to improve you at all. What I mean by being able to play 7 days a week, you're touching a basketball, you're doing dribbling drills of some kind, you're taking a shot, whatever it may be. You're basically touching a basketball 7 days a week. And then number two is to work out. To work out, you're basically looking to work out every other day. You don't want to do it every single day. Picture your muscles, basically for your muscles to get stronger, and why you actually get stronger by lifting weights or push-ups or squats or whatever it may be. Your muscles tear when they get used. So when they get torn, they rebuild themselves stronger so that they don't get torn again. They actually don't like being torn. So because of that, when you work out, they get torn, they build stronger and bigger. Now, if you are working out every single day, you're tearing your muscles and you're not going to be rebuilding them properly. And they're going to get what's called scar tissue, which means that they're going to get bigger, but you're not going to get stronger. And eventually, by working out too much every single day, you're not just going to be looking bigger, but you're also going to be tighter as well. That's why a big reason why you'll see some of these big bodybuilders who can do a bench press, but they're only really moving that far, and they're really pushing it hard, but they're only moving in maybe 5 or 6 inches, and they're not going through a full rep. And that's because they were not allowing their muscles to heal. And that's why they are a bit stronger, they're massive, they're huge, but you have to let your muscles recover. Usually 24 to 48 hours is a good enough time to let your muscles recover. Number 3 is terminology of basketball. That's why I'm so big on this channel on court smarts, on basketball IQ. I'm not like every other channel where they say, here's some moves, here's some drills. I do that, but I also do a ton in basketball IQ, whether it be basketball plays, terminology, or just looking at a basketball player and seeing how they play and why they're playing in that way. This is a huge skill. So let's get down to the clipboard really quickly and I'll break down just some simple terminology. So simple terminology is a zone defense versus a man-to-man. In a zone defense, you're guarding an area of the court, where in reality, if you're going up against a man-to-man defense is when a team is guarding an individual man. So for example, this may look similar to a 2-3 zone, but they are playing man-to-man. And you'll be able to tell this by having player 2 set a screen for player 4. Player 4 will pop up, and if player 2 pops up, it's a zone. If player 4 fights through, it's a man-to-man. That's an easy way of telling. So, keep that in mind. Then the next is also strategies. Understanding that to beat a zone defense, you should get as many paint touches as possible. And what I mean by that is to have player 1 drive towards the rim. That's going to collapse the defense. Let's say it's a zone defense. Now player 1 is going to be able to pass to player 5 or to player 2. Now, against a zone defense, there's a couple of different ways of beating it. You can get the ball into the high post. So by doing that, you would be able to have player 4 go into the high post. You've now stacked the side. You can have player 3 move up, player 1 go down, player 2 come up top. Just as an example, you've overloaded the side, which means that now there's always going to be at least one player open. That's a very heavy overload. Sometimes you'll only overload with 3 players. In this case, we're overloading with 4. However, just to understand different strategies on how to beat defenses, but also different strategies on defense on how you can guard other players. Also understanding what the defensive player is trying to do to you. And that is the 5th tip today, and that is to understand why that defensive player is slightly angled in a certain direction. Maybe he's trying to force you towards that left side. So if his angle is like this, he's trying to force you in that direction. Maybe he's trying to force you into a double team. Maybe he's trying to force you into a trap along the sidelines. Things like that. Now, if you're not understanding some of these terms that I'm saying, in a previous video very recently, I did mention different defensive terminologies. You can go check that out. If I remember, I will link that down in the description below. And then on the flip side, this is tip number 6, and that is understanding what the offensive player is trying to do to you. When you're closing out, are you doing stutter steps or are you going to jump to block that shot? And if you're going to jump to block that shot because you tend to try and jump and block shots a lot, what he's going to do or what she's going to do is to try and do a shot fake on you. And if that lifts you off the ground, they're going to drive by you. So by them understanding what they're going to do to you because of your tactics that you do, it's almost like a poker game. You really have to know what the opponent's going to do, and on both sides, whether you're on offense or defense, you need to know what that opponent is going to do to you. Now, tip number 7 is very, very important in my own opinion, and I've got past history with tip number 7, so that's why I say it's extremely important, and that is know every single position on the court. Now, I was 6 feet tall in grade 6. I was 6'2" in grade 8. I was a center. That's all I knew, was being a center. I had very little ball handling skills just because, let's say we didn't have enough players in practice one day. We were all doing guard skills and things like that. But if we had a full team, I was a post. That was it. That's what you're learning. You're learning different post moves. You're learning how to rebound, different rebounding drills, blah, blah, blah. And this is something that even when I talk to coaches that they really shouldn't be doing is splitting up the guards and the centers, forwards, that kind of a thing. You should learn every single position. Number 1, you could be a guard at first, because I've seen many players who were shorter who grew up to be 6'7", 6'9", and they're great ball handlers, but they don't know the low post. And on the flip side, I know many players who are like myself who, when they get into high school, or myself, grade 10, grade 11 area, I switched into a guard. Some teams, like in school, I was more of a forward. On different club teams, AAU, I was more of a guard. And because of that, it's a massive changeover when you're not touching the ball to now touching the ball every second. It's a massive changeover. What helped me was I was actually a pretty good shooter. I wasn't a good shooter on my high school team most of the time, 99% of the time. But when I went on to club teams, I don't know if that could have been the coach or it could have been something else, maybe the strategies, the plays, whatever it may have been. But either way, it just comes down to when you know every single position, you're able to play every single position. If you're a small forward right now, let's say you're 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". If you're a small forward, or even 6'9", 6'7", even if you're in that height range and playing that position, it's still great to know the point guard skills, because now you're able to know even more versus your opponent. The more your knowledge base is, the easier it is to beat that opponent. And on the flip side, on defense, it's when you know multiple positions, you're able to guard multiple positions, and because of that, you're going to be able to really stop a lot of players. Number 8 is something that a lot of players do struggle with when I ask them, why do you want to be a basketball player? My question to you right now, and if you're still watching this, leave a comment below. Why do you want to be a basketball player? Don't be ashamed, there are a lot of people who say, hey, I just want to get that $80 million contract from the NBA. I just want to get millions. That's fine. Go for it. If that's your motivation, 100% go for it. If you say, hey, it's just fun. I just want to get out on the court. I just want to play. I want to be so good that I just want to just break ankles. I just want to be better than everybody else. That's great. That's Michael Jordan right there. Like, I'm going to be better than everyone else. That's it. That's it. No matter what you say, I'm going to be better than. Kobe Bryant is another example. He used to study his players that he used to play against. When he was in high school, he used to study others and say, what are they working on and what are they not working on? What do I need to work on to really get them in their weak spots? And he'll work on more things and different things than them so that he can destroy them when it comes to the season. That's why when it came to grade 12, he wasn't a massive player in grade 9, grade 10. Grade 11, he started really doing things. In grade 12, he was a killer. That's why. He did his homework. What are those other players doing? What am I not doing? And what can I do to beat them? And then when he got into the NBA, it was the same. And he went straight to Michael Jordan and said, hey, how do I do that move? I want to do that move. So he was learning off the best. So keep that in mind. Why do you want to be a basketball player? I wanted to be a basketball player because I just loved the sport. That was my thing. I wanted to know just everything about the sport. I did crazy amount of homework, a crazy amount of just knowledge work on the game. It wasn't necessarily skill work. I was always an okay shooter. I know there's a lot of people who say, you never shot that well in school. Yeah, but when it came to AAU, I was shooting 75% from the three. So, yeah. Anyways, so just you gotta know why you're really going for it. If you say, damn, I just don't know why I want to play, like, why am I even doing it? Then maybe you need to really dig deep and say, why am I? Is it because I enjoy having fun playing the sport? So keep that in mind. Also, by knowing why you're playing a sport and why you want to advance farther and farther into the sport, you'll also be a little bit more motivated to get better and motivated to play the sport. Number 9 is something that a lot of players neglect. I know a lot of really good players who should have been in the NBA today if it wasn't for their grades. I'm not going to say their names here, but some of the best players that Ontario's ever had never made it to the NBA, and players who were not as good as them have made it to the NBA. The reason is grades. That is a massive, massive thing. I knew a really, really, really good player from Burlington, and he went down to Florida to play. He had to go. He was redshirted. And just grades were not his thing. And I'm not going to say where he plays now because he does play professionally, but I'm not going to say where. But what really kept him back was his grades. He could have easily, very easily, been an NBA player. And I'm not talking about myself. My grades weren't the greatest. His skill level, his height was also a massive contributor to his skill. But just his overall, he was one of the best basketball players I ever played against. His height was there. He played like LeBron James. And it's so hard to say without saying who it is and give you some highlights of how good he actually was. But just get your grades up. Grades are very, very important. Like, ridiculously important. And the 10th tip I'm going to give you is the most important. I've been told by many professional coaches, many university coaches, that shooting is ridiculously important. That's really all they're looking for. If you can shoot at a high percentage, you're going to go very far. Grades are number 1, obviously, and skill is number 1 as well. They are tied at number 1. And if you can shoot the ball, whether you are 5'11" or 7'4", if you can shoot that ball, you are going to go very far. You really need to take at least 10,000 shots every couple of months. Like, I am not lying. You seriously need to get outside somewhere, or to a court or somewhere, or even practice your shooting form. Whatever it is, you seriously need to shoot the ball every single day. When somebody else is, or when you're not working on your game, somebody else is working on their game. That's a LeBron James quote, and I think it's also from Michael Jordan or Kobe or somebody else as well. But you seriously need to shoot the ball every single day. I cannot stress that enough. You need to shoot the ball every single day. Anyways, I hope that you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time.